Good morning, team. Erin Kieselberg here. I'm a senior executive sales leader under my best friend, Megan Ruhr. And welcome to the November team meeting. December, switch of months. Okay, December. So the thing I love about our leadership team is that we walk the walk and we remain flexible as this business should be. So instead of our typical style of a mixture of leaders doing different topics, today I get to share my heart and my passion, which is teaching on chemicals. So instead of like 4 or 5, 10 to 20 minute teachings, today you get me for like an hour. Isn't that awesome? I'm excited. I hope you're excited. The reason why, one of my why reasons for joining Norwex is I was a tree hugger before Norwex. I actually started researching with the food that my family ate, and I was shocked by what I learned about the food industry. And it really opened my eyes and opened my mind to explore other things. And cleaners was the next thing that I made a change in, and then in stepped Norwex. So I was cleaning with baking soda and vinegar before, which was not ideal. So Norwex was a game changer for me as a customer. And then when I moved to Arizona, nobody knew about it here. And I thought, people are actually hungry for this information. And I think if people get information, then they want to make the changes. I think that more often than not, people live how they do because they simply don't know the long-term consequences of it. And so I feel like Norwex fit me like a glove. I'm super passionate about it. And I just thought it was a platform that I could share with customers, in the form of a party. I honestly never in a million years dreamed that there would be 2,000 of you on our team joining forces to share this information, because the impact that we can make collectively is so incredibly powerful and exponential. So I'm fired up. It's been several years since I've done a teaching on this. And really recently, what made me kind of come full circle to revisit it again is a dear friend of mine, her husband, they're in their 30s, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He is a fitness coach, a CrossFit coach, super healthy, super fit. I was shocked. It was kind of shattering. A girl on our team, Ashley, her son is battling cancer for the second time. He's 7 years old, and he is undergoing chemo right now. She found out just before conference when I met her for the first time this year. Janet, a lot of you guys are on Janet Toller's team. Her sister was just diagnosed with cancer. Her best friend, which was a mutual friend of ours, died from cancer the week that my youngest daughter was born. That was about 7 years ago. And the anniversary of that is coming up. But her mother-in-law and her mother have both battled cancer. That's one person. And this is all like within the last couple of months. An employee for my husband's business just had to take a week off because his 15-year-old nephew died of cancer. And Michelle, you guys, a lot of you are on Michelle's team, and her best friend lost her battle to ovarian cancer a couple of years ago. And I'm just thinking, none of these people are old, no, they're young people. Not all of you know my story, but my husband's first wife passed away from a 3-year battle of cancer, lost her battle, and she was 42. And so 4 of my kids, I walk out the daily grief of them not having their first mom, and it's awful. My daughter, one of my daughters has autism, and that has been a devastating journey for me. And all of these things are linked to cancer. So it's a really personal journey for me. And when I hear about that many people in that short of time, I'm like, man, I can't be silent. And so for some of you, some of this information might be really new. For some of you, you've heard it before, but even for me, like, you guys, I'm pretty hardcore about this stuff. Like, if you come to my house, I'm like pretty clean. But even for me, it's good to revisit it. It's good to rehear it. I learn more every time I dive into something like this. And so I just want you to know, it is loads of grace, zero judgment. We are all on a journey. I'm like 13 years into my journey of living clean. So I might be way more extreme than some of you who are just starting, and that is okay. Every single step that you make matters. Everything that you learn matters. And so I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I'm going to share with you kind of the history of how we got to this place, things about specific chemicals. I'm going to share solutions with you and some products and that sort of thing. But I want you to grasp the scope of what we're dealing with here, because this is why we do what we do. Yes, we save people time and money, but there's a lot of people who don't know who will greatly benefit from this. So I want you to listen with your ears for your own self and your own family and your own household. Maybe through the teaching, by the end, pick 1 to 3 things that you can change. Some of them will be easy, some of them will be bigger things to tackle. And then revisit it again in a couple months. Don't overwhelm yourself, because it really is easy to get paralyzed by the amount of stuff that's out there that we kind of have to avoid or pay attention to or whatever. But nobody's perfect, and that's okay. We're just all on a journey, and everything that we do to make an impact on our body burden matters. The body burden is, we really do have resilient bodies to be able to detox. However, we are so inundated by so much that our bodies are not able to keep up with what we're throwing at them. So the thing I love about Norwex is, I've spent countless hours researching, watching documentaries, reading. I love that kind of stuff. I geek out about it. But my passion is to make it really easy for you guys to take just simple steps, without having to do all of the back work. But Norwex really is a company that's mission-based, and every time I go to a conference, I think I've been to 11 of them in the past 6 years. Amy Kadora, who is our chief marketing officer, and she leads the product development, but she also is super passionate, and she does training. So they're not like hype and, emotionally driven. It's really educationally based. And I remember the first conference, the only one that I never attended, was my very first national conference. I had, new in the business and didn't go. But all the consultants who went were talking about recycling, and their fire was so lit for recycling, because that's what Amy Kadora had taught about. And I'm like, man, that's really powerful that one person could do a teaching and make such a vast impact on, simple steps that really do make a difference. So, I love our company, and I love that it's a platform for us to work together, not just for ourselves, but I want you to think about how you can share this information at your parties, with your customers, with your own team members, the people that you still haven't met yet that really need to hear what you have to say. So, little history on chemicals. And I'm going to share some statistics because I think statistics are impactful. In the last 60 years, there's been 85,000 chemicals released into our marketplace. Only 200 of the 85,000 have ever been tested for their harm on the environment and human health and safety. Regulations have only been put on 10 of them, okay? In the European Union and Japan, however, 1,300 chemicals that are legal in the US have been banned in those countries because they've been proven to cause harm to human health and safety. Not just cancer, like I mentioned before, and autism, but things like asthma, allergies, thyroid issues, which affects your metabolism and your sleep, early onset puberty, birth defects, neurological disorders, and infertility. The crazy thing is the same companies like Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson. Okay, speaking of Johnson & Johnson, have you guys seen their commercial that they're playing? I literally want to throw things through the TV. They're like, oh, we're your company, and we're a baby company, and we're a this company. And I'm like, you guys are freaking murderers, first of all. Okay. I'm gonna pull back, watch the commercial. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Okay. But anyways, they make pure formulas for other countries where those chemicals are banned, things like formaldehyde. And then they use the formaldehyde in our country. We've become a dumping ground, which is the sign of a third world country, which is insanely absurd, okay? But we're gonna change that. Okay, so after World War II became the dawn of the chemical age. There was thousands of chemicals being developed, and the government basically could not keep up with it. So by 1976, there was, it's called the Toxic Chemical Reform Act, TSCA. The EPA was developed, but by that point there was 60,000 chemicals. Like, they were so far behind in the research and development that they just grandfathered those 60,000 chemicals in. Things like lead, things like arsenic, things like DDT, that we now know after hundreds of thousands of people, especially children, have been harmed, that those things were toxic, and now they're not okay. And those are few of the chemicals that have been banned. it would make sense, in my opinion, to use the precautionary principle. This is where you take into consideration the effect of not having bans placed or not having your behavior modified, and what is the cost of that. So when we get into a car, we put our seatbelt on. That's the precautionary principle, because the consequence of not wearing a seatbelt statistically now has been proven to be much more dangerous should you get in an accident than having one. So we wear them. And very rarely do we get in accidents, and very rarely even the accidents that we get in, are they life-saving? But in the instances that they are life-saving, it's worth every single time that you get in a car and put a seatbelt on, okay? That's the precautionary principle. Here in the US, we don't use that when it comes to chemicals. We're not interested. We use the innocent until proven guilty. This is the formula that our government has seen fit for us. So basically, just like, any common criminal that these companies get to be, we are just the guinea pigs. They don't have to prove the health and safety. Most people, I think, believe that the government is out to protect them and is involved in these things because we have the Environmental Protection Agency, we have the FDA, but you guys, you'd be shocked if you really delved into it. My question is, at what cost do they become guilty? What is the framework or the definition? How many people have to get neurological disorders, cancer, asthma, allergies? Even those things are life-altering. You guys, Nicole Van Cleve, her son was on massive amounts of medication at, I think, 8 or 10 months old when she and I met. And Norwex was the difference for him. And it was a respiratory thing that he was dealing with. But now he doesn't have to be on any of those medications. And all medications have long-term side effects, okay? So even the things that aren't potentially fatal, we can't just look at the acute effect of these chemicals. We have to look at the chronic effect of these chemicals. And there is no framework. There is no definition. So innocent until proven guilty, we have to define the proven guilty, and we haven't gotten there yet. So the formula, in my opinion, is just not working. And so we can't leave it up to the government. We as consumers have to be the ones to make a difference. We have to join together to do the grassroots effort, which we are making an impact, and I'm going to get to that. And it's going to make a difference, but we can't wait around for the government to do that, particularly for our own families. We have to make the changes now. We have to educate ourselves. So a few statistics: in the last 45 years, childhood brain cancer has increased 38%. Asthma is up 80%. Leukemia in children, 74%. Early onset puberty, 55%. ADHD, 53%. Genital deformities in baby boys, up 122%. So my son actually had that. It's called hypospadias. I had no idea that it could even be linked to this stuff. And he was like born, halfway into my journey of becoming clean. But his urethra stopped at the base of his penis, and he had to have 4 surgeries by the time he was 2 to fix it, which just seemed like, okay, that can happen. Well, now it pisses me off because those were really hard years. And I had no idea that there was a link. Life-threatening birth defects is up over 100%. Of those 85,000 chemicals that I mentioned that we live with, 2,000 of them are introduced every single year. So we're picking up pace. We're keeping pace. The Environmental Working Group did a study in 287 newborn babies, the cord blood. So before they even took their first breath, 287 chemicals were found. Oh, sorry. I think it was 200 babies. 287 chemicals were found in the cord blood of newborns. Of those, 217 are toxic to the brain and nervous system. And you guys, I'm going to post this. I'm going to make a separate post with a lot of the statistics and things, graphics and stuff, so you don't have to feverishly write if any of you are. So just listen. 208 of those cause birth defects or abnormal development in animal testing. Eventually that happens in the human population. That's why we use animals to test. 180 of those are known to cause cancer in humans, and children and babies are 65 times more susceptible to the effect of these chemicals. The reason for that is that chemicals are generally stored in fat, and infants and children have a higher body mass index. They get, they chubby up and then they grow, and they chubby up and then they grow. And also their cells are reproducing at a much faster rate than adults. And so for all of those reasons, they are much more susceptible to have chemicals stored inside themselves rather than detoxing them. All right. A few more statistics for you. Before the Industrial Revolution, which we're talking now like 100 years, but still, cancer rates were 1 in 8,000. You guys, now they are 1 in 3. Cancer rates are 1 in 3. That's not okay, because it is not necessary. There's been a 49% increase in infertility just since the 1980s. And you guys, we have several people on our team that have dealt with that. And I know 2 people in particular. One is like a cousin of ours, a Norwex cousin. But in her Norwex journey in eliminating chemicals, she now has, I think, 2 or 3 children after years, like 7 or 8 years of infertility. You guys know Jessica Bruner. Her story is miraculous, and she has a son, Gideon, but she lost 12 babies before. So this is, although their numbers and their statistics, we all know somebody. And if you've been intimately walk the road, it's devastating and it's difficult. And again, we can't predict, there's no particular formula, but we do know that these rates have gone through the roof. And so we do know the impact that these are having and the impact that we can make by eliminating them. In 1999, autism was 1 in 5,000. Today it's 1 in 88. And I actually think that this statistic is a little bit old, because I've heard 1 in 56 most recently. For the chemical industry, I want to give you a kind of a scope of the magnitude of this industry. 42 billion pounds of chemicals are made every single day. That is this is just in our country, okay? 623,000 tanker trucks that are produced every single day. It's a $720 billion industry. That's massive. So the top 100 chemical companies have band together, and they created the American Chemistry Council. So it's an organization that's backed by a $720 billion industry, and their main job is to lobby the government. So they pour millions and millions of dollars in to prevent bans from happening on the products that they produce. They have, just in 2011, they spent $52 million to lobby the government, and that's basically all it took to prevent bans from happening. But if you think about $52 million, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what they're making. Do you know what I mean? They barely have to spend any of their profits to actually prevent our government from protecting us. And if I sound like a conspiracy theorist, I apologize. However, I'm very, very, very well educated on this stuff, and I'm super skeptical person. Like, I actually wasn't full on into Norwex. It took me a while. And even though like I loved the cloths, I was like, I don't know about that mop. And then I loved the mop, and then I was like, but I don't know about all those other cleaners. And I would have to research each one because I didn't believe in the company. It wasn't until I actually got to know, like, go to conference and get to know really the people behind the company that I now am a full-on believer. I've even had, a couple years ago, I did a training on chemicals where, and I just want to relate to you guys, because some of you are like all in, and some of you like aren't quite sure. And I believe this training, because not everybody is on this team page, but your executive sales leader or your Red Jacket leader will probably post this training. So if you have people on your team that aren't part of this page, but you want them to see this video, they'll have access to it. But I think if anything, listen and do your own research, because this stuff is out there and it's everywhere. Like, I'm not making it up. But anyways, I used Gain and all the crap before I knew anything about this stuff either. Well, now, and really just even several years into not using any of this stuff, when my neighbors do laundry and they use Tide and Downy, and I open my front door, I can smell it. It bothers me. It actually triggers my asthma, and I haven't had asthma in years until I encounter like a chemical. Walking down the chemical aisle at Target, like the laundry aisle, I can't even do that because it is so strong and powerful to me. So I had a team member a couple of years ago who heard me say that in a training, And she thought I was a nut job. And then lo and behold, like 3 years later, she herself like is like, I can't even walk down the laundry aisle at Target. I have to avoid it. And she's like, I thought you were nuts. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I'm a pretty like raw and authentic person. So I didn't even realize that people would be skeptical of me, but I get it because I was once on the flip side. So anyways, they use the chemical industry, the American Chemical Council uses a strategy that is actually tried and true all the way back to the days where we all thought tobacco was fine and people would smoke in the office and smoke in airplanes for the love of everything holy and smoke in restaurants. Remember when we were kids and they're like smoking or non-smoking, and you would be like next to like a little wooden wall that was about this tall and the other smoker was right here and you're like smoking, non-smoking. Okay. People would smoke in the car with their kids or whatever. Well, that was because of this marketing strategy that basically the tobacco industry used and was successful with for a while. Now the food industry is using it. Now the chemical industry is using it. And it's basically where they create their own research and they say, oh, no, it's perfectly safe and it's totally fine and it's not harmful at all. And then eventually there's enough research that they're like, oh, yeah, well, I guess, it's harmful, but it didn't harm you. Whatever you're experiencing must be from something else. And then that gets disproven. And then they have to go, oh, okay, well, maybe it did harm you, but it wasn't our fault because you were the one that chose to smoke, or you were the one that chose to eat that or use that cleaner. And so it's not our fault. And so it takes a while because there's so much money backed by these industries for the American population to wake up, to have it impact their own life. You guys, unfortunately, in the 6 years I've been doing this, it'll be 6 years in January. When I first started and I would go into a party, I would get like a lot of kind of crazy people. Usually like maybe one person was nodding their head and could relate to something that I said. Now it's at least half the room. At least half the room has been impacted by it. And I don't really have to do a whole lot of convincing. And that breaks my heart because that's just in 6 years that people are starting to feel the effects of the devastation of the diseases that these chemicals cause. And so I'm super passionate about team building because we need so many more voices becoming educated and sharing this information. We can't do it ourselves. Okay, so particular chemicals. Another little story about the tobacco industry. So back in the 1970s, most house fires were caused by people smoking and actually falling asleep with their cigarettes in their hand. And so the government actually put a requirement on them to come up with a self-extinguishing cigarette. And they did that and it was successful. However, it changed the taste of the smoking experience. And so instead of that solution, they came back and worked out with the government, hey, instead of the self-extinguishing cigarette, because, our profits have been impacted because people don't like the taste of it, how about we develop fire retardants and spray all the furniture with fire retardants and the flooring and the building materials and the bedding and kids' pajamas. And so that if a fire does start, there's fire retardants all over everything in their house. How about that? And the government's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. So here we are, however many decades later. I think we're going to look back on history if we aren't already and go, what the were we thinking? It was not worth it. Okay. And there's a whole story about the ACC, the American Chemistry Council, fighting that battle too. And it's crazy. So all of these PBDEs, the fire retardants, they actually break down, they get into the air. All of our electronics have them because, electronics produce heat. I'm tapping my TV, you guys can't see that. And so then the household dust is not just dust, but it's actually these PBDEs bond to the dust. And so our Dust Mitt and EnviroWand are actually not just beneficial because you don't have to purchase Pledge, which is a toxic chemical, but they actually grab onto the dust, which is bonded with toxic chemicals, and remove it completely from your home. So it's got multi-layers of benefits for everybody that uses our products. Some of these chemicals go through in our body burden and they can detox pretty quickly. However, some of them, depending on the molecule size, actually stay in our systems for a really long time, and they take a long time or particular processes to actually detox the body. So back in the 70s, PCBs were banned. However, they are still present in 100% of the population. And so some of these chemicals will take generations, even once they're eliminated, for them to be eliminated from the population. I'm going to get into some specific chemicals, and after I go over the chemicals, I'm going to go over some solutions and some things that you can do to avoid them and some things that you can do to detox from them. So here we go. Synthetic fragrances. Y'all, this is the number one thing that you can get rid of. If you have not ditched your candles yet, your plugins, any of those things that release synthetic fragrances, your perfume, cologne, a lot of your personal care products have synthetic fragrances in them. So when you read an ingredients list, now again, there is no regulation. So some companies have, because we are becoming smarter as a population, some companies will list ingredients on their bottles. That does not mean that that's all of the ingredients listed in there. That means that those are the ones that they've chosen to disclose. Now, is a company going to go ahead and write formaldehyde as the first ingredient on there? No. Oh, Megan, if you want to slip in the training that there is a flash sale coming. Oh, you heard it here first. So that word fragrance or parfum, P-A-R-F-U-M, I'm not mispronouncing it. So in order to protect the company, they can't patent their particular fragrance blend. So in order to protect them as trade secrets, without a patent, they've been allowed to just use that one word, which will encompass up to 3,000 chemicals. So they just have to say fragrance. They don't have to list the specific chemicals. And you guys, in the 200 of the 85,000 chemicals that have been tested, that's just individual chemicals. We've never, not a single one of these chemical cocktails has ever been tested. And we know, in particular, things like ammonia and bleach are immediately fatal. We don't know the effects of the chronic chemical cocktails that we're using. Did you guys hear about, this was actually right after I did the last teaching. So I've done this teaching on my own team page. And then a few of the leaders reached out to me and said, can we please make this available to our teams? There was a Buffalo Wild Wings where a chemical had spilled and they cleaned it up the best they could or whatever. And then a different employee went and mopped over that area. And the manager of that restaurant died because of chemical intoxication. And 13 employees and customers were hospitalized because of the fume that chemical reaction made. And these are just common restaurant cleaners that people think, probably think are safe for them because they're sold on the shelves, it kills me because what a tragic waste of life. That's not even necessary. They can mop with water. People need to know that water and microfiber works, Okay, so the biggest thing about fragrance and perfume is that they contain phthalates, which is a really toxic chemical. So some, even our own odor eliminators, we do have some fragrances in there, but they are phthalate free. So phthalates is one of the reasons why these chemicals are so toxic. So if something does have fragrance, make sure it's fragranced with an essential oil and says that it's phthalate free. So in place of plug-in air fresheners or candles, use a soy-based essential oil candles, because I know some people can't get away from that, the flame and the warm feeling, especially in the fall and winter. There are some more pure candles out there. Pure beeswax candles actually are air purifiers, so that's a great thing to have. And essential oil diffusers. One thing I will say about essential oils, please do not buy them at Sprouts or Walgreens. Essential oils now are everywhere, just like CBD oil, but make sure that they're coming from a pure source. doTERRA, Young Living, Rocky Mountain is one that's not a multi-level marketing company if you don't want to get involved with that. Eden's Garden is a good one. Those ones are pure. And it's really important that you're not diffusing essential oils that have crap in them. I will say that. Okay. Bisphenol A, or BPA, probably most of you have heard this because BPA free is on a lot of products, and those are good products to have, if they're BPA free. It's a polycarbonate plastic, but it's an endocrine disruptor. Endocrine disruptors are a huge class of chemicals, not just BPA. And these are the things that mimic hormones in our body, and they are the ones that cause the birth defects, the infertility, early onset puberty, thyroid issues, because your thyroid regulates a lot of your hormones that regulate metabolism, which is probably why we're experiencing a lot of obesity issues in our culture. Like I said, sleep, all of those things. BPA free is really good to look for, but it's hidden. It's one of the highest quantity chemicals produced. So I highly recommend you, anytime that you can get glass instead of plastic, use that, or paper instead of plastic, use that, even if it's BPA free, okay? BPA is actually on your receipts, your retail receipts. So there's a lot of places now that will allow you to email your receipt or say no receipt. You don't really need receipts for returns very much anymore because they can pull it up on your debit card. So say no to receipts whenever possible. And when you do have the receipts, at least put them, don't just let them hang out all over your house. It's so easy to let them get stuck in your reusable grocery bags, in your car, and your purse, in your wallet. Stick them specifically, if you have to keep a receipt, into an envelope so that is kind of contained. You guys, the thing with chemicals is that, I think most of you guys know this, but when you come in contact with a chemical, it absorbs through your skin and is in every organ of your body in less than 30 seconds, okay? But even if you're not touching them, chemicals are constantly off-gassing. So plastics is known for this. So a lot of you are familiar with, if you, especially I think it happens mostly in the warmer months, but if you shut up your car and there's constantly a film on the inside of your windshield, which Norwex is magical for, but that's actually off-gassing from the plastics and in your car and the chemicals in your car. So I always leave my windows cracked a little bit and try to get fresh air in there. And that's the same thing with receipts. Okay, so BPA, and actually a different kind of plastic, in all your canned food items, they're actually lined with BPA. Eden's Organics is, I think, one of the only companies that has BPA-free lining, and you pay a little bit more money for it, but it is worth it. Just like with Norwex, you invest a little bit in upfront, but you save your health in the end. I personally, specifically for things like acidic, so canned tomatoes are a really popular thing. I make sure that all of my canned tomatoes come from Whole Foods in a glass jar because the acid and the plastic have an interaction. I now, for this reason and nutritional reasons, I try not to use canned beans anymore. So I buy dry beans, I soak them overnight because that pre-digests them, and then I throw them in the Instant Pot, and I'll just do big batches, and then I have mason jars and I freeze them. Okay, SLS, sodium lauryl sulfate, and sodium laureth sulfate. Okay, you guys, this was originally an industrial engine degreaser that was never intended to be in the consumer marketplace. And now it is in everything, from soaps to shampoos, because it's what makes it lathery, shampoos, your toothpaste, which is probably getting swallowed. It's a really big one to make sure that your products say SLS free. And I'm going to give you a lot of product recommendations. And if you guys have other things, this is the most beneficial page to collectively share information, because I know a lot of you guys have done your own research and know of products that I don't even know of yet. So we'll do that all on a post. Propylene glycol is basically an antifreeze and is used as a preservative so that Amazon can ship products, and for all you guys that live in the tundra, it lasts, the product lasts, but we now have antifreeze in our personal care products, and we're putting it on our skin, and it's going into our system. Parabens, there's at least 5 kinds of parabens: methyl parabens, propyl parabens. If the last part of the word says parabens, because I really encourage you after this training, go through your medicine cabinet, go through your bathrooms, and just throw this crap away. Just don't even use it. If you want to, that's okay. but I encourage you to just switch them out, just bite the bullet, go cold turkey, because it's just not worth it, especially in our children. And parabens and SLS, probably most of us have those things in our, if we're newer, those are the ones that you want to get rid of. And because those two are common in our personal care products. And so it's really important to avoid them. Okay, PVC. This one will make you crazy. Okay, here's the thing. Check your shredded coconut for propylene glycol. Are you serious? Oh, that makes me nuts. Okay, see, I love Rebecca. You guys, Rebecca Hoffman is really good with this stuff, especially in the plastics industry. And that's what I love. I love bringing people onto our team because collectively the information that we can share, and you guys inspire me so much too. But yeah, she did a great training on plastics. She used to work in the plastics industry, and now we get her. Isn't that wonderful? Okay. And I'm just gonna share a story. This is a little bit off topic, but here's your commercial break, okay, for your Norwex team building meeting. And speaking of which, this is our team meeting, so we are gonna be doing giveaways. So for those of you that watch this, put in the comments of this the 1 to 3 changes that you're gonna make immediately, and that's how you're gonna enter yourself into the drawing for the free giveaways that I will be doing. And so I'll announce those winners in the next 48 hours. I wanna give people some time to watch this. Okay, so just a little note, Rebecca attended Nicole Van Cleve's initial Facebook party, and both of them, in their initial purchase, only bought the EnviroCloth. And at that point, I was 10 months into my Norwex and practicing being super ballsy to tell people, you can't just have the EnviroCloth. You've got to get the window cloth too, because they're best friends. They work together, the whole Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off. Plus you're paying the same amount of shipping anyways. You're going to get way more bang for your buck. You want both. Both Nicole Van Cleve and Rebecca Hoffman was like, nah, girl, no thanks. That felt really sleazy salesman-like. And here 6 years later, one of them's a red jacket and one of them is a sales leader rocking the Norwex business, top seller. So you just never know. I guarantee you when I initially heard that, it was painful, okay? Because I was not confident in my business back then. And I was like, oh, but I kept doing it because I knew it was right. And now look, 5 years later. So when you hear no, it's not no forever. Some people just take time and they become the most successful because they're usually the analytical, really highly educated ones. Okay, done with commercial break. Okay, the thing about PVC and the thing about these chemicals is that they are so prevalent in our environment, in our homes, in our society, that we have to make the changes for the ones that we can control because there are so many that we can't control, okay? So PVC piping is most likely what all of your plumbing is made of. If you live in the older Midwest and your house is older, you might even still have lead in your piping. Like, holy moly. Okay, so we got to make the changes that we can because you can't control where your water comes from. The plumbing in your house, most likely you're not going to go back and make it all copper. But it is in your shower curtain. If you have a plastic shower curtain, it probably has PVC, and the heat and the steam from your shower, that's one easy thing that you can make. Get rid of that. Get a material one. I know you're going to have to launder it more often, but I promise you it is worth it. Just get rid of it. Okay, so we talked about cleaners and all of these things that are, even if we're not using them, they're off-gassing. And so we're inhaling them. Even if we're not absorbing them through our skin, we're ingesting them because we breathe. A lot of us inhale through our mouth. And so they're getting into our bloodstream. And that's something that we teach at parties. I will share with you, I do, especially when it comes to laundry products, because of the laundry products are the number 2 most toxic household product behind oven cleaner. And who the heck cleans their oven? Ain't nobody got time for that, okay? So in my opinion, laundry products are the number 1 most important thing to make a change with. And for whatever reason, I think because our olfactory nerve is connected to memories, and so we use Gain and Downy because that's what mama used and it's nostalgic or whatever, and we've been brainwashed to think that that's what clean smells like. It's probably one of the most difficult things for people to change. So especially because of how toxic it is. And it's really hard for some people to, I think denial is almost the first reaction, that you're the first person that's ever told them that everything that they know about laundry is toxic and wrong, And so it's something that I choose to definitely not avoid at parties. This is the two areas, like I share how chemicals get into our system and I share with laundry. When it gets to that part, that's my educational piece. And so I'll share how important it is to make the change in laundry, that laundry products have things like 1,4-dioxane and really high carcinogens, and they're sitting on our skin, which is the largest organ in our body, and our skin is absorbent. So look at me, I'm covered head to toe. If I was covered head to toe right now, most people, unless you sleep naked, are covered 24/7. Even if you sleep naked, you're sleeping in the sheets that you laundered. And so for 24 hours, 7 days a week, we're absorbing toxic chemicals into our skin if we're using any of the leading brands of laundry detergent, fabric softener, dryer sheets. If there's one change that you make, I encourage people, make it here. Make it with your laundry products. Get rid of the dryer sheets and the fabric softener, switch to Norwex detergent and dryer balls. Your health and your family will thank you. And then at that point, I give away something free. I always give away free laundry detergent, and I give something away because I've kind of just dropped an atomic bomb on them, and I want to bring the mood back up and give something away. I'm not here to be a Debbie Downer. I do a lot of humor, off-color humor. I try to be fun with it, but I'm really passionate about it. So you're not going to get out of one of my parties without me sharing this information with you. And you guys, because I chose to do this, I think it was like probably a year into my business, maybe a year and a half. And the hostess of that party, who I can't remember how we got connected, but I don't think she had attended a party. Somebody had referred her or something. So she was hosting a party and she was nodding her head. And she pulled me aside when she helped me load my car after the party. And she's like, my best friend's grandson was 2 years old and he was messing around in the laundry when his mom was doing laundry and got a hold of a dryer sheet and put it in his mouth like all toddlers put everything in their mouth. And she just thought it was gross, took it away from him, put him down for a nap, and he never woke up because he was poisoned to death. And you guys, I still, that story still rocks me. And I was wrecked for months. I just thought, this mom had no idea. What if she had known? What if she had come to one of my parties? She just didn't know. And the cost that she paid, it reminds me of that Bible verse, people perish for lack of knowledge. And that is so true in this case. And so it became kind of like the torch that I carry for that little boy, for that mom, for my kid's first mom, that people have to know, because what if they knew, So it is something that I'm passionate about, but it is also something that I tread lightly with to make sure that there's no judgment when I share, and that I don't send them away depressed, but I send them away inspired and passionate to make a change. All right. I'm just going to touch on food here a little bit, because we can avoid all the chemical cleaners we want and make all of the changes we want in our environment. But if the stuff that we're putting directly into our mouth is loaded with chemicals and toxins, there's only so much that environmental changes will do. You know what I'm saying? And like I mentioned, food, I could teach probably a multi-session class on food, but I'm just going to hit just on the chemical aspect of it real quick. There is so much chemicals and toxic junk in our food. It's insane. So if you can, any change that you can make to not have processed foods that are prepackaged and shift your diet to more fruits and vegetables, you're going to greatly benefit from. The one thing that I will say, that anything that contains corn is probably genetically modified. Soy or soybean oil, or all of the soy products, genetically modified, and canola oil, which is in most salad dressings, and it's one of the top oils. Soybean and canola are the top oils used in processed foods. Okay, the thing with those is that they have they're genetically modified using a chemical called Roundup, so that the plant itself becomes resistant to weeds, which means that the pesticide is actually inside the plant, and it's a chemical called glyphosate. And glyphosate is so toxic and dangerous, even at very, very, very low levels. However, the levels that it's now in our food system is is fatal. It's actually a jury in California, I think it was last year, awarded a gentleman who ended up getting cancer. They directly linked it to glyphosate, which is produced by this company called Monsanto. And they awarded him $289 million because they are saying, yes, this is toxic. Yes, it's cancerous. It's a known carcinogen. We have got to stop this company from putting it in our food system. So if I could encourage you to do any sort of change in your diet, it would be eliminate processed foods and sugar, because sugar feeds cancer, and most carbs turn into sugar. But eliminate processed foods. Fruits and vegetables. It is worth it to buy organic. Now, here's the thing. There's no such thing as cheap food, okay? It's a complete misnomer. So although you might look at the dollar menu at McDonald's and go, okay, that's cheaper than buying like a head of broccoli or something, go through your produce section. Bananas are super cheap. You're much better off eating a banana than a $1 hamburger from the fast food joint, okay? Just run into the grocery store real quick, get a banana. But the thing is that you're gonna pay in your health. The environment pays. There's always a different kind of cost. So it's either pay me now or pay me later, but either way you pay, okay? So I think for the sake of your health and the quality of life of your family, it's much worth it to figure out how to purchase fruits and vegetables and buy the organic ones. Now, here's the thing. If you can't buy all organic, then that's fine. Maybe bananas isn't as important because you don't eat the outside of it. You do the peel. But the Environmental Working Group has what they call a dirty dozen. So it's the 12 most toxic, most pesticide, and they do it every year to make sure that the information is relevant. So particularly things where you're eating the skin, like berries, tomatoes, all of those sort of things, try to buy the organic ones. And then it's really important to dairy products and meat, because again, for a cow, the amount most cows are fattened through corn if they're not 100% grass-fed and finished. So they're eating all of that glyphosate, hundreds of acres of glyphosate that they're eating to fatten up before they're butchered, and then you're eating the meat and it's generally has fat in it, or you're having the dairy. And remember, these chemicals are stored in the fat cells. So when you're eating things that are high in fat, like meat and dairy, you're getting the highest concentration of the chemical glyphosate, okay? So just think about that. And again, any baby steps you can make. When I first started eating healthy, because organic meat was so much more expensive, I cut the meat in half. Instead of chicken breast, I would do one chicken breast for the whole family and cut it up into pieces so it was just a piece of the meal. So I would always double the veg, decrease the meat, decrease the dairy. Now my family is pretty much gluten-free and vegan for the most part. Like, we rarely eat meat, we rarely eat dairy. Most of my family can't even have dairy anyways for food sensitivities, but it's been a really long process. And so I'm just speaking to, I know a lot of you are in different places on your journey. But those are some really important things that you can do to make a change for your diet. Either eliminate dairy, try to get your kids to switch to like coconut yogurt, almond milk yogurt, almond milk. There might be places where like there's not really a great substitute for cheese, which has a ton of dairy. But any change that you can make, any shift that you can make is going to be worth it to just do the reduction if you can. Okay. Food storage is another really important thing. How am I doing on time? I feel like I'm sorry, I don't mean to be super lengthy. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here soon. Food storage. So please don't store your stuff in plastic if you're going to freeze it. When you freeze and reheat, particularly in the microwave, it's really critical that you use glass food storage or even the silicone food storage. Okay, I'm just gonna hit on it. I'm gonna say it. Vaccines. At least do your own research. If you're a pro-vaxxer, an anti-vaxxer, you can't be any one of those or any in the middle if you haven't done your own research. So I'm just going to encourage you to do your own research on that, because there is a ton of chemicals in them. I'm just going to say that. And I know that's highly incendiary comment and whatever, but I have to encourage you to do that. Otherwise, I would be doing you an injustice, I feel like. Okay, so solutions. Okay, so for us, we can make changes in our personal home. I'm actually going to start doing a very modified, toned down version. You guys work with Norwex, and so you're on the team. You get like the full download. But I'm going to figure out how to turn this information into a smaller class. And I'm going to start the year off right with my customers, and I'm going to personally invite, and I'm only going to do like 10 at a time and kind of make sure they're all in the same social circle, and just invite them to attend an online class, not really to sell them Norwex, but to give them the information, to give them solutions so that they can take 1 to 3 baby steps to start the year 2020 off healthier and happier for their family. Everybody's thinking about New Year's resolutions and that sort of thing. So if you can educate people and inspire them to make changes, of course Norwex has a lot of solutions. And of course that's probably going to be, I'm not going to do it as a sales party, but I am going to give away. And by them agreeing to attend this really exclusive class that only has 10 spots, and I'm making it exclusive because I'm going to be giving it away, giving free stuff away, it makes it like, oh, I want to be one of those people. If there's only 10 slots, RSVP quick to the first 10 people, then when I give something away, that's how I'm introducing the product, because the rest of them are going to want to purchase it. Does that make sense? So it's not shady or shicey or anything, but that's just how I'm going to choose to do it. Okay, here's the best news that I could share with you. The biggest impact that we can make is with our own money. So we're up against a multi-hundreds of billion-dollar industry. However, the more our population is educated, we vote with our money and we make a shift in the marketplace. That's the beauty of capitalism, is that already in the last 12 years, there's been a huge shift towards green cleaning and awareness of this sort of stuff. So when we choose to not support companies, I don't care if Johnson & Johnson makes some sort of natural line now. I don't care. You don't get any of my money, Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble, because you've known that you've been poisoning the population for a long time now, so you just don't get a single cent of my money anymore, okay? The more people that we can inspire to do that and actually fund startup companies and true green companies, grow companies like Norwex and all of the, startups that we have, there's a huge entrepreneurial shift in a lot of these companies now. So I spend my money there. I am a subscriber to Mighty Nest, even though they're probably a competitor of Norwex, because they have stuff that Norwex doesn't. And I want to know, I want to keep up with the industry. I want to support that industry. And so they get my money. From 2011 to 2015, there was a $1.9 billion increase. So almost $2 billion in just 4 years, because the marketplace is creating a demand for healthy, clean products. And the marketplace will shift because of customer demand. It always has. It's happening in the food industry. We can make it happen in the chemical industry. And the interesting thing that I learned was that, a lot of research and development is done at the university level. And so they're funded. I just read a funny joke that it was like 97% of researchers will agree with whoever wrote them the check. And that is so true. When you read any of these articles, you've got to know who funded it, because if it's the ACC, the research is crap. But the toxicology department never was in cahoots with the chemistry department. So they were two completely different things, pathology and toxicology and chemistry. So the people developing them are completely unaware of the effect. And for the first time ever, we're seeing a blend in all of the research happening at that level, which is a huge plus. Okay, so if you can go on your phone, there's 2 apps that I want you to download. One is called Healthy Living, and it's the Environmental Working Groups app. And Think Dirty is another one. So these are apps that when you're at the grocery store, you can scan the barcode of a product and it'll pop up and tell you if it's in the database. These are the chemicals. Here's the concern of the chemicals. Here's how we rate this product. So you don't have to research everything. Thousands of products are on their apps. And so they've already done the work for you. They've done the grunt work for you. There is companies like 100% Pure. I use their mascara. Crunchy is a really pure company. Beauty Counter is a really pure company for things like makeup and personal care products. I mean, there's a lot of them out there now. One that I just found recently is called Lemongrass Spa. And the thing that I love is Think Dirty owned by Johnson & Johnson. Oh, that is very possible and something that we need to look into. One of the things I'm going to talk about, Rebecca, is you have to be aware of sellouts. So a lot of companies, this happened with Tom's of Maine, it's happened with Annie's Organic. So it's a startup company, somebody's passionate about it. Because of the increased demand, they grow their company to a multi-million-dollar company. They never really intended to be a CEO of a massive company. And they get a multi-million-dollar offer by one of the large corporations. They buy them out. General Mills now owns Annie's Organics, and that's why you see like now, just because something says organic, I'm sorry, organic Pop-Tarts aren't healthy, okay? They might be better than the alternative, but they're not healthy. And so you have to be aware of sellouts because that is a huge thing. So I didn't know that, Rebecca, and that's why I love having, very educated women on our team because that's possible, because that does happen. Another thing to be aware of is greenwashing. Again, companies don't have to say anything on the label. They might advertise themselves as green, natural, blah, 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 but you've got to know the ingredients. You've got to look for the specific ingredients because I think Shea Moisture is another one. They sold out. So although they were really pure at the beginning, now they're not. Their formulas are changing. So it's difficult. I'll admit it's super frustrating even for me because it's like, well, how am I supposed to know this stuff? I researched it initially. It takes a lot of time and energy to research and I can't keep up with it, So anyways, Lemongrass Spa, because a lot of the really pure things are really expensive. And as adults, like I'll definitely pay that much money. But for my kids who aren't as responsible, and I now have girls that are like tweens and teens, and I don't want to spend $30 for a lip gloss for them because they're going to lose it or leave it at school or whatever. Lemongrass Spa is a great one. And I'm sure there's several others. The cool thing is it's a direct sale, so I connected with a local consultant because I wanted to be connected with one, and I'll share her information because you do have to purchase through a consultant. But I'm doing that for my girls for their stocking stuffers, is I'm going to get Lemongrass Spa stuff. So anyways, I had trouble connecting with her and so on the phone, but I looked her up on Facebook and she's a mutual friend with Megan. And I was like, so I texted Megan, I was like, how do you know this Emma girl? And she's like, oh, I went to high school with her. And I'm like, what the heck? She went to high school with Megan in Chicago. She now lives a mile from me in Arizona. What are the chances? So I love that kind of stuff. Like, what a small world. Nail polish is a big one. If you guys, I'll post the nail polish recommendations. This one, Jamberry, used to be, free of the top 5 chemicals. They're now went out of business. Holy moly. And so I'm looking for a new one. There's a brand on Mighty Nest but I always make sure, particularly for my girls, that they don't use any of the toxic stuff, even on nail polish. Menstrual products. This is a huge one, you guys. If you're sticking, cotton is one of the top pesticide products. So cotton, if you're, tampons and pads, or you're buying the typical brand, super toxic, going right up into that area. So get yourself a Diva cup. There's a lot of silicone cup brands now. They're great. I think that we should make the Enviro cup and just put some silver in that baby. If that's intimidating to you, it's really not that bad. It was weird for me too, but it's like awesome. There's a company called Cherish that does, and Rael, I think is how it's pronounced. They do organic stuff, organic pads and tampons. Sorry if there's men on here, but it's important for your wives and daughters and grandchildren. Okay. Deodorant is a huge one. Deodorant is one of the number one things. Here's the thing is that especially people that live in, the South or the Southwest, we want the antiperspirant because we don't want to sweat. Well, sweat is how your body detoxes. And so it's really important to use a deodorant and not an antiperspirant. But it can take up to a year for your pit detox process to happen. So a lot of people can't hang through that 6 month to a year process, but you can look up, pit detoxing where you do like bentonite clay and some charcoal, and you can do like masks to pull the toxins out and help speed up that process. But I'll give a lot of recommendations each and every Schmidt's, handcrafted honeybee, native. There's a lot of really good deodorants out there now. I know Jessica Bruner has one and Rachel Hill has a suggestion. And so again, we'll do another post. Hair coloring. You guys, I decided I was not going to color my hair because of all the toxic chemicals until I absolutely had to. So when I started seeing all this gray, I think I made it till I was like 35. And then I did like a semi-good one, not really that great, but I just recently started using Madison Reed, and I'm not cool enough to dye my own hair at home. So my girl that I've used for 7 years, I bring my Madison Reed hair color to her and she does it for me, and she's totally willing to do that. So that one doesn't have ammonia and a lot of the harsh chemicals in it. So it's like a better brand for hair color. Beware of the sellouts. I talked about that. Okay, cookware. This is a huge one. Cast iron, stainless steel, green pan. Green pan is a great one. It's totally affordable. I think my set kind of got jacked up. So I just recently bought one. It was like $200 for a huge set of green pans. Best money you can spend. Do not use Teflon. Throw it away like right now. That's so important. You guys, there's a documentary called The Devil We Know. If you want to know about the history of Teflon, if you have any question about the government protecting us, watch The Devil We Know. Your mind will be made up. Okay, here's some great things that you can do for your house, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom. Did you know that stay-at-home moms are 54% more likely to get cancer and some of the other diseases because we're at home all the time, usually the ones doing the cleaning. And so opening up your windows is a huge thing. Anytime the weather permits, again, because building materials and paints, a lot of us live in new builds, blah, blah, blah. Open your windows, air it out, get fresh air, spend time outdoors. It's really important. Off-gassing from your carpets, your flooring. We talked about all of that. If you can get houseplants are actually air purifiers. So it's my goal. I'm a serial houseplant killer, okay? I have a hard enough time keeping 7 kids alive. Houseplants kind of puts me over the edge, but I will not give up. So I have a houseplant, 2 of them that are now 2 years old, and I'm super proud of that. But Boston fern, peace lilies, spider plants, the indoor trees, all of those things are really great for purifying your indoor air. I highly encourage it. Along with the pure honeybee wax, candles, essential oil diffusers, all of that stuff. It really does matter. Okay. I've got 4 minutes till I have to leave for an appointment. Okay. Get a material shower curtain. You guys filter your water. If you live in Queen Creek in Arizona or something that used to be farmland and all of those pesticides go down into the water table, it's really important to get a water filter. So we filter our water with a Berkey. It's like a stainless steel canister that sits on our counter and you have to pour water through the top, but it takes out chlorine and fluoride, heavy metals. It's super powerful. It's a few $100s, so it is an investment, but highly, highly, highly worth it. A lot of the water filtration systems don't take out fluoride and chlorine, so make sure that the one that you do does. We also have filters on all of our shower heads. It's a 15-stage water filtration. Take short showers. That's awesome just for the environment, but you can get more chlorine in your system from one shower than drinking all the water that you drink in one day. So they're really inexpensive, almost to where I'm like, does this actually do what it says it does? But it's better than nothing. It's like $30, and they last a year, and you just trade out the filter and it just attaches right to your shower head. So that's a huge one. Take your shoes off when you go inside the house. That's something that everybody can do. Get a cute little, bench shelving unit by your garage door or your front door. Have all your kids take their shoes off. Take your shoes off as much as you can. I have like a pair of house slippers that I wear inside my house. Obviously, our entry mats are massive. Our entry mats, the first 4 steps. Think about, your kids running through grass and that has all the fertilizers and pesticides, whatever. You go to the gas station and you're walking through all those petrochemicals, and then you come inside your house where your baby is crawling. That's a really easy one. Get the entry mat. I know it's one of our most expensive products. It's 40% off this month, so you can get that. Host your own party, use your Hostess dollars, build a team, help them reach their fresh start, get the Hostess dollars, and buy some of those big ticket items. But don't wear your shoes, get our entry mats. Really good. I'm just going to touch on putting your phone in airplane mode, especially while you're sleeping, and do not have your children sleep with any sort of electronic devices by them. EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, they're rough on our health. So just turn it in airplane mode whenever possible. Keep it away from your body is really important. Don't put your bra or your phone in your bra or in your back pocket. Try to keep it away from your body as much as possible. And your body and potty. Okay, just a few tips on detoxing. Hopefully this will take me 2 minutes. Drink lots of water. Your water intake, purified water with your Berkey. Ask for one for Santa for Christmas. Tons of water will help you flush the toxins out of your system. If you can add pure lemon juice to it, the lemon is a really great detoxifier, so do that. A little fun little drink is activated charcoal with some honey and lemon and water, just a little bit. Activated charcoal is a great detoxifier. If if your kid drinks poison or something, they go to the hospital, charcoal is what they're going to do to get it out of their system. So that's actually something that a lot of tree huggers use, is activated charcoal. You don't want to do a lot and your poop will turn black and you might poop for 4 days. So just a little bit, but if you've encountered or feel go through a detox process, and I'm not advising you on detox, you probably want to get a healthcare professional involved in that. Make sure you know what you're doing. But these are just things that I'm telling you that you can look into and research. Okay. Eat a diet of mostly organic fruits and vegetables. We talked about that. Exercise is actually really beneficial. It's reducing your fat, which is where the chemicals are stored. Sweat is how you get chemicals off your body, and then with your new shower filter, take a shower right after, because those toxins are coming out. They need to be flushed out. Dry brushing is really great before you do an Epsom salt bath, and you can add charcoal and bentonite clay to your Epsom salt bath, but Epsom salt is a great detoxifier. So if you can, and it's great relaxing for your stress level. So just take a nice long hot bath and make that part of your regular routine. Floating, holy cow, if you have not gone floating, that is my favorite self-care, self-spoiler, most wonderful experience. Find a float spa by you and go floating. Great Christmas present idea for me. No, I'm just kidding. For you guys to ask for Christmas. Okay, I'm just going to hit on this real quick. Fasting and intermittent fasting is actually really great for your detoxification process. So my thing that I did this year in the last 6 months is after dinner, which we eat kind of early because our kids go to bed early, I don't eat until the next day. So no more snacking, whatever. It's okay to be hungry. And so after about 6 o'clock, I don't eat until the next day, at 8 o'clock. And so that's called intermittent fasting. And when you can give your digestive system a break, it really does a lot for your overall health, especially in detoxification. So there's a lot of information here. Two great documentaries that I would encourage you to watch is called The Human Experiment and Stink. Those are really good documentaries to educate yourself on if you're interested in diving into this. There's also one, I would say on the food side, which just exposes the overall culture of our government with big business, okay, is What the Health and Cowspiracy. So if you think that I'm a little crazy and, off my rocker, please don't judge me until you've watched What the Health, Cowspiracy, The Human Experiment, and Stink. There's a girl that's on there that says, if you're not fed up, then you are not paying attention. And I think that that's really important, not in a sense of judgment, but we've got to break out of the status quo. We've got to educate ourselves and make the appropriate changes. And then The Truth About Cancer, if you want to know one that is, big pharma and whatever, that's a really great one too. Google it, do your own research. Because it's all the information is out there. So thank you guys for tuning in and listening. I encourage you to share this with your customers. Do a Start the Year Off Right with me, classes. That's a really great way to share it and spread the news, because you now are voice pieces for this mission and for this cause. And again, how to be entered into the drawing is share with us your top 3 takeaways from this video that you're going to implement into your own life and your own family. Bonus points if you share the products that you use. I have to go to an appointment I'm running late for, but I'll do a whole separate post on this page where I share all the products that I use that would be easy starts for you that I have researched, and then feel free to share yours on there as well. And I will also share all of the chemical statistics, kind of product ingredients to avoid and that sort of thing on a separate post so that you can have that as your fingertips as well. So thank you for joining. Thank you for the hard work that you're doing to be brave and bold and persevere in this grassroots effort to make our planet and our country a better place for our kids and our grandkids and generations to come. It really does matter. And we are truly grateful as your leadership team that you have joined us in this effort. Love you guys.